The universe had a way of assigning tasks no sane being would volunteer for, and Lyra, guardian of the Thunderbird Mesa on the storm-lashed world of Aethel, knew this intimately, a duty that isolated her with ancient secrets, hinting at the void gardener's touch in the impossible blooms that clung to star-dusted vacuum, and the quiet dread of a power that could dismantle empires with a whisper, a burden made slightly less solitary by the shimmering, empathetic flicker of Glim, her crystalline companion, who now pulsed with an unfamiliar, curious light. The air on Aethel crackled with ozone, and the scent of rain that had fallen for 1,000 years, a constant percussive symphony against the resonant stone of the high plateau. Jagged peaks clawed at a sky perpetually bruised with storm clouds, from which colossal, feathered shapes the sky titans would occasionally dive, their cries echoing like thunder, their passage wreathed in captured lightning. This was the Thunderbird Mesa, a place of myth, and Kael Vance, exploration pilot with a nose for inconvenient truths, and a spirit that chafed under any authority but his own, had just illegally landed his battered scout ship, the Nomad, at its precipice, convinced he was about to expose a legend as elaborate fiction. Instead, he found her. Lyra materialized from the swirling mist and ambient energy, as if sculpted from the storm itself. She was tall, humanoid but distinctly alien, her skin a mosaic of deep blues and purples that seemed to shimmer with an inner light, patterns shifting like captured nebulae. Her eyes, large and silver, regarded Kael with an unnerving stillness, seeing not just him, but the chaotic, vibrant aura of energy that clung to him like a second skin. She held a staff that hummed with a low, resonant frequency, its tip a complex lattice of glowing crystal. Glim, a creature of pure, faceted light, hovered near her shoulder, its usual soft blues and greens now shot through with curious yellows as it focused on Kael. "You trespass, human." Lyra's voice was not loud, but it resonated deep within Kael's chest, like the thrum of a powerful engine. It was melodic, yet held an edge of ancient power. "This place is not for your kind." Kael, never one for tact, grinned, a flash of white teeth against his weathered face. "That's usually what people say before I find something really interesting." Kael Vance, Interstellar Chronicle, and you are. He gestured vaguely with a data slate. The resident cryptozoological wonder. Or just a very territorial local. His disarming honesty, often mistaken for arrogance, was in full play. He wasn't afraid, just intensely curious. He'd chased whispers of beings who controlled the lightning here, of creatures that danced with the storms. Lyra was far more compelling than any rumor. "I am Lyra, guardian of this mesa and of the sky titans." Her gaze flickered upwards as one of the colossal avians shrieked, a bolt of lightning arsing from its wings to a distant peak. "They do not suffer intrusion gladly." "Neither do I usually," Kael retorted, his eyes scanning the intricate carvings on her staff, the subtle flow of energy he could almost see around her. "But the stories about this place, they're too good to ignore. Colossal avians that command the lightning." My editor practically foamed at the mouth. He paused. "You don't seem like you command them, more like you belong with them." Lyra's silver eyes narrowed slightly. "Understanding is not command human. We coexist. This sanctuary is vital not just for them, but for—" She hesitated, a flicker of something unreadable in her gaze. "For the balance." She took a step closer, the energy around her intensifying, the air growing thick. "You will leave, now." Kael stood his ground, a familiar rebellious spark igniting in his chest. Not without a story. Or at least a decent explanation. "What are you guarding this place from, or for?" He saw the rapid, almost imperceptible healing of a small scratch on her arm, incurred from brushing against a sharp rock it had sealed and vanished in seconds. Fascinating. Before Lyra could respond, a new sound cut through the storm's roar, a high-pitched, insidious whine that seemed to scrape against Kael's nerves. It was a sound utterly alien to the natural symphony of Aethel. Lyra's head snapped up, her entire posture shifting from stern guardian to alert warrior. The silver of her eyes seemed to sharpen, her aura sight suddenly focused on something beyond Kael, something approaching fast. The patterns on her skin pulsed with agitation. "They are here," she whispered, a new, raw urgency in her voice. "They found this place." "They? Who are they?" Kael asked, his journalistic instincts overriding any sense of self-preservation. He turned, trying to see what had alarmed her, but saw only the roiling clouds. A sleek, black ship, silent as death. He pierced the cloud cover, its design unnervingly organic like a predatory insect. It was followed by two more. They bore no insignias Kael recognized. As they drew closer, he felt a strange coldness seep into the air, a dampening of the vibrant energy that permeated the mesa. Glim, the light creature, contracted into a tight, fearful ball, its glow dimming to a dull, unhappy gray. The Shai'naar. Lyra said, her voice tight. The Joy Eaters. The name sent a shiver down Kael's spine he couldn't quite explain. Joy Eaters. It sounded like something from a child's nightmare. The black ships began to deploy smaller, equally sinister drones that fanned out across the plateau. What do they want? Kael asked, his hand instinctively going to the sidearm holstered at his hip, though he doubted it would be much use against those vessels. They consume essence, joy, hope. They leave husks behind, Lyra explained, her gaze fixed on the approaching threat. And they collect. The rare, the unique, the sky titans. They would be a prize. She looked at Kael then, a new assessing light in her eyes. And perhaps now, a Tholian guardian and a blundering human. Kael felt a surge of adrenaline. This was more than a story, this was survival. Right. So, leaving now is still on the table, or do we have a plan that involves not becoming part of some cosmic goals collection? Lyra's lips thinned. My duty is to protect this mesa. My ship is hidden, shielded. Yours. She glanced at the nomad, looking suddenly very small and vulnerable. As a beacon. One of the drones swooped low, emitting a beam of dark energy that struck near the nomad. The ground sizzled, and Kael felt a wave of profound, unnatural apathy wash over him for a split second, a chilling emptiness that scared him more than the blast. He shook it off, his rebellious spirit kicking back. Okay, point taken. My ship's a target. Yours sounds like a much better option. It is not equipped for two. And it is not meant for escape, but for protection of what lies beneath. Lyra's gaze drifted towards a section of the mesa that looked like solid rock, but Kael now sensed a faint thrumming, a hidden resonance. What lies beneath? He pressed, even as another drone fired. Lyra ignored him, her staff glowing brighter. She began to chant in her melodic language, the words weaving with the storm's energy. The air around her crackled, and the sky titans above seemed to respond, their cries becoming more agitated, more focused. Bolts of lightning, raw and untamed, began to strike closer to the encroaching drones, driven by more than just the storm. They are interested in more than just the avians, Lyra stated, her eyes briefly meeting Kael's. They hunt for specific resonances, echoes of creation. Her words were cryptic, but the gravity in her voice was undeniable. If they sense what is truly here. The lead Shai'naar ship descended further, a section of its obsidian hull opening like a maw. Figures emerged, humanoid but unnervingly gaunt, their movements fluid and predatory. They wore dark, form-fitting suits, and their faces were smooth, almost featureless, with eyes like polished jet that seemed to drink the light. We need to move, Kael said, his journalistic curiosity now fully supplanted by a primal urge to survive. Your ship, your sanctuary, whatever it is. If they're after resonances of creation, I'm guessing that's more valuable than a few big birds or a nosy reporter. Lyra nodded curtly. The entrance to the sanctum is concealed. Follow me, and try not to broadcast your vibrant interference. She cast a pointed look at his aura, which, to her senses, blazed like a miniature sun amidst the storm. As they moved, dodging energy blasts and the watchful eyes of the drones, Kael noticed the subtle ways Lyra interacted with her environment. She didn't just walk. She flowed across the uneven terrain. When she touched a particular stone, it would resonate faintly, a soft chime lost in the wind. He saw her pause, her hand outstretched, and a patch of luminescent moss growing on a rock face pulsed with a brighter light, as if acknowledging her. This was more than just a guardian. This was someone deeply, intrinsically connected to this world. The Joy Eaters were relentless. One of their ground teams, moving with unsettling speed, cut off their direct path to the area Lyra was heading. Kael fired a few wild shots from his sidearm, more to create a distraction than with any hope of doing real damage. The energy bolts from his weapon seemed to dissipate uselessly against the personal shields the Shai'naar wore. Your weapons are ineffective against their dampening fields, Lyra stated, pulling him behind a jagged outcrop of rock as a dark energy beam seared the air where they'd been. Yeah, figure that out, Kael grunted. Any bright ideas, Guardian? Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, her breathing evening out despite the chaos. The patterns on her skin swirled and Glim, still nestled near her, pulsed a faint, worried blue. When she opened them, her silver eyes seemed to hold a new resolve. There is a passage rarely used. It is unstable, but it will lead us beneath the mesa. The Shai'naar will have difficulty tracking us through the denser rock and energy strata. She pointed towards a narrow fissure in the cliff face, barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through. This way. The immediate consequence of their encounter was clear: they were being hunted. The Joy Eaters were not going to be easily deterred. Kael's arrival might have been the catalyst, drawing their attention or simply coinciding with their arrival, but it no longer mattered. They were in this together, at least for now. As they slipped into the dark crevice, the sounds of the storm and the Shai'naar's attack began to recede, replaced by the drip of water and the echoing silence of the earth's depths. The air grew heavy, ancient. Lyra moved with a certainty that Kael, despite his bravado, found himself relying on. He was an explorer, but this was her territory, her world, and the stakes were rapidly escalating beyond anything he'd ever imagined. He had come looking for a story. He'd found a war for the soul of a world, and perhaps much more. The rumors of Thunderbird Mesa were an understatement. The reality was a philosophical warrior, a sacred stormy sanctuary, and a terrifying new enemy that fed on the very essence of life. The passage twisted downwards, a claustrophobic tunnel barely illuminated by the faint glow emanating from Lyra's staff and the shifting patterns on her skin. The silence was profound, broken only by their footsteps and the occasional drip of water. Kael, used to the open expanse of space or the clamor of starports, felt the weight of the mountain above them. So, Kael finally said, his voice a low rumble in the narrow space, "These Joy Eaters. You've dealt with them before." Lyra's silhouette paused ahead of him. "My people have known of the Shai'naar for millennia. They are a blight upon the galaxy, moving like locusts from one vibrant civilization to another, leaving behind emptiness." Her voice was laced with a cold anger that surprised Kael. "They are drawn to strong emotional signatures, to places of great joy, creativity, or profound spiritual connection. Thunderbird Mesa, with the Sky Titans and its unique energetic resonance, was always a potential target. And this resonance of creation you mentioned, that's what they're really after. It is a seed," Lyra said softly, resuming her careful descent. "A potential. Something my ancestors seeded here long ago, a counter-melody to the silence the Shai'naar spread. They would seek to corrupt it, twist it, or simply consume it like all else." They emerged into a slightly wider cavern. Here the walls were veined with luminescent crystals, casting a soft, ethereal glow. And in the center, nestled on a bed of moss that seemed to draw light from the crystals, was Glim. The small, faceted creature had apparently zipped ahead through some unseen crevice. It was currently nudging a small, intricately carved wooden bird Kael hadn't noticed Lyra carrying. Glim pulsed a soft, insistent blue, then floated over to Kael, bumping gently against his chest before returning to Lyra, then back to Kael, its light shifting to a warm, inviting amber as it focused on him. Lyra watched this display, her stern expression softening almost imperceptibly. Glim is particular. It rarely shows such immediate interest in newcomers. The crystalline creature, a Silosian empath light, was her constant companion, usually shy and reserved. Now, it seemed to be actively trying to bridge the gap between the Tholian and the human. Kael reached out a tentative hand, and Glim settled onto his offered palm, its light warming his skin. It felt surprisingly solid, like a perfectly smooth, warm stone. "Hello there, little guy. Or girl. Or glowing crystal thing." He looked at Lyra. "So, I get the pet seal of approval. Does that mean I'm slightly less of a vibrant interference now?" A ghost of a smile touched Lyra's lips, a fleeting expression that transformed her face, making her seem younger, less burdened. "Glim senses the core of a being. Your aura is loud, human, and undeniably chaotic. But Glim also perceives your intent. It is not malicious. Merely unharnessed. Unharnessed chaos. That's me." Kael chuckled, feeling a strange warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with Glim's physical temperature. This small, insistent creature was an unexpected olive branch. "So, Glim thinks we should be friends. Or at least not try to kill each other in a dark cave. Survival necessitates cooperation," Lyra stated, though the earlier sharpness in her tone was diminished. "The Shai'naar will be searching the surface. They may even attempt to drill or use sonic penetration to find us. This sanctum is shielded. But a direct assault." Suddenly, a low, powerful hum reverberated through the cavern, accompanied by a tremor that shook dust from the ceiling. Glim darted from Kael's hand back to Lyra's shoulder, its light flickering with alarm. "They are attempting to scan the mess's depths. Lyra said, her face grim. We must reach the heart of the sanctum. The primary shield generator is there. The incident with Glim, however small, had shifted the dynamic. The shared moment of curiosity and gentle interaction had broken some of the ice. Now, faced with the immediate, tangible threat of the Joy Eater's search, the need for cooperation was no longer an abstract concept, but a pressing reality. They were forced together, their fates intertwined by the pursuit of a common enemy and the inexplicable fondness of a small, glowing alien. Lyra led Kael deeper, through passages that seemed to respond to her presence, hidden doorways of stone and light opening with a soft chime as she approached with her staff. The air grew warmer, and the faint thrumming Kael had sensed earlier intensified, becoming a palpable vibration in his bones. He realized Lyra wasn't just navigating, she was interacting with the sanctum itself, her staff a key, her presence an attunement. This place, Kael breathed, as they entered a vast subterranean chamber. It was breathtaking. Giant, luminous crystals pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light, illuminating intricate carvings that covered every surface, depicting celestial charts, strange beings, and complex geometric patterns that seemed to shift and rearrange as he looked at them. In the center of the chamber, a pool of water, so clear it was almost invisible, shimmered, reflecting the light of the crystals. And floating just above the pool was a complex, multi-layered sphere of interwoven light and energy, pulsing in time with the thrumming that filled the air. The heart of the mesa, Lyra said, her voice filled with reverence. The source of its energy, and the focal point of the nascent song of creation. Kael asked, awestruck. Yes, it is not yet complete. It is a resonance that, when fully formed, can heal barren worlds, coax life from desolate void. It is the ultimate act of creation, a testament to the universe's desire for life. She gestured to the sphere. This is what I protect. This is what the Shai'naar must never touch. Another tremor, stronger this time, shook the chamber. Cracks appeared in some of the distant crystals. They are getting closer, Lyra said urgently. We need to reinforce the shields. She moved towards a console that seemed to grow organically from the crystalline floor, her fingers dancing over its luminous surface. The sphere above the pool pulsed brighter, and the thrumming intensified, creating a shield of resonant energy around them. Kael watched her, a new understanding dawning. This wasn't just a guardian protecting a place. This was an artist, a cultivator, tending to something infinitely precious and powerful. Her creation as worship, cultural quirk wasn't about idle hobbies. It was about this. About life itself. What can I do? He asked, his earlier flippancy gone, replaced by a serious determination. Glim's intervention had opened a door, and the sight of the heart of the mesa, combined with the imminent danger, had firmly pushed him through it. He was no longer just a reporter chasing a story. He was a witness to something cosmic, and a reluctant participant in its defense. Lyra looked at him, a flicker of surprise in her silver eyes. Your ship's energy core. If you can interface its power regulation systems with the sanctum's conduits, it could provide a temporary boost to the shield matrix. It is unorthodox, but it might give us the time we need. My ship. But it's up there with those things crawling all over it. There is a direct conduit shielded, running from this chamber to a point near the original landing site. Designed for emergencies for drawing geothermal power. It could be reversed. Lyra pointed to a section of the wall where intricate patterns of light pulsed. It will be dangerous. You would have to go back up, at least partially. Kael felt a knot of tension in his stomach. Go back up into the hornet's nest. But then he looked at Lyra, her face illuminated by the glowing sphere, her expression one of fierce, desperate resolve. He thought of the cold apathy he'd felt from the Joy Eater's weapon. He thought of Glim, currently pulsing a worried, but hopeful, yellow on Lyra's shoulder. Unharness chaos, at your service, Kael said, a grim smile touching his lips. Show me this conduit. Let's give your shields a kick in the capacitors. The forced proximity was no longer just about sharing a cave. It was about to become a very active, very dangerous partnership. The journey back towards the surface, even partially, through the narrow, shielded conduit Lyra indicated was nerve-wracking. It was a tight crawl, designed for maintenance drones, not humans. Kael could hear the faint, disturbing whine of the Shai'naar technology above, a constant reminder of their presence. Lyra remained in the heart chamber, guiding him via a comm link integrated into his borrowed Tholian scanner, her calm voice a surprising reassurance in the oppressive darkness. The conduit terminus is approximately 10 meters from your vessel's primary power coupling, Kael. Lyra's voice echoed slightly in his ear. The Shai'naar drones are patrolling, but their current search pattern is focused on deeper penetration. You may have a brief window. Copy that, Lyra. Engaging stealth mode, try not to trip over my own feet. Kael muttered, inching the access panel open. The air of the mesa, cold and charged, hit his face. He peered out. The Nomad was still there, thankfully intact, though two of the sinister, insectoid Shai'naar drones were hovering near it, their multi-faceted optics scanning the area. His heart pounded. This was insanely risky. They are distracted. Lyra's voice came again, a new note of strain in it. I have amplified a decoy resonant signature deeper within the mesa. It will not hold them for long. That's my cue. Kael slipped out of the conduit, moving with a speed and silence born of years of evading less than friendly port authorities. He reached the Nomad's external access panel for the power systems, his fingers flying over the familiar controls. He had to reroute the primary energy flow, bypass safety protocols. He himself had installed a rebellious act against his own meticulous engineering. But these were desperate times. Interface cable connected. He whispered into his comm, plugging the heavy-duty cable from the conduit into his ship's system. Ready for the juice, Lyra. Hope this doesn't fry my baby. Initiating energy transfer, Lyra replied. Be prepared for a surge. Back in the heart chamber, Lyra stood before the console, her hands moving in intricate patterns, not just manipulating controls, but seemingly weaving strands of energy. The sphere of light above the pool pulsed erratically as the Nomad's raw, somewhat unrefined power flooded into the sanctum's ancient systems. Glim, on her shoulder, glowed intensely, mirroring the fluctuating energies. This was a dangerous gamble. Tholian technology was precise, harmonious. Human technology, especially Kael's modified systems, was often a brute force affair. Suddenly, an alarm blared from Kael's comm. Spike. They've detected the power surge. Drones are converging on my position. The shield is stabilizing, Kael! Hold them off for a few more seconds. Lyra urged, her voice tight with effort. She could feel the chaotic signature of Kael's ship's energy integrating, a jarring but potent addition. She could also sense his aura flaring with adrenaline and defiance, a beacon of stubborn life. Kael saw the drones turn, their movements swift and lethal. He drew his sidearm, knowing it was mostly useless, but needing to do something. Easier said than done, Lyra? He fired, the energy bolts splashing harmlessly off the drones' shields. One drone fired back, a beam of that soul-chilling dark energy narrowly missing him, striking the Nomad's landing strut. The metal groaned and buckled. Kael! The link is established. Get back to the conduit, now. He didn't need telling twice. As he scrambled back towards the narrow opening, one of the drones swooped low, its manipulator arm extending. He felt a searing pain in his leg as a beam grazed him, not dark energy, but a conventional cutting laser. He stumbled, crying out, and dove headfirst into the conduit opening, just as the drone fired again, the blast scorching the rock face where he'd been. He tumbled down the conduit, his leg throbbing, finally sliding out onto the floor of the access tunnel near the heart chamber, gasping for breath. Lyra was there in an instant, her silver eyes wide with concern. Glim zipped over to him, pulsing a frantic red around his injured leg. You are injured, Lyra stated, kneeling beside him. Her hands hovered over his leg and Kael felt a cool, soothing sensation. He saw the torn fabric of his trousers, the nasty burn beneath. But as she focused, the intense pain began to recede, and he watched, astonished. As the angry red skin began to visibly mend, the charred edges smoothing out, the flesh knitting itself back together at an accelerated rate. Within minutes, all that remained was a slight tenderness and a faint pink scar. Wow. Kael breathed, flexing his leg. Rapid healing is not an exaggeration for you guys. Thanks. He looked at her, truly looked at her. In the soft light of the sanctum, the intricate patterns on her skin seemed to glow with a gentle warmth. Her concern had been genuine, her relief palpable. The Shai'naar utilized null energy frequencies in their primary consumption weapons. Lyra explained, her gaze distant for a moment, a shadow crossing her features. Those I cannot heal so easily. They unravel. But physical trauma, yes, my people recover swiftly. It is a biological imperative from those harsh environments. She then added, more softly, you were reckless. Comes with the territory of being disarmingly honest and having a rebellious spirit. Kael said, managing a weak grin. Besides, it worked, didn't it? Shields up. Lyra nodded, a hint of something like respect in her eyes. The shields are at full strength, augmented by your ship's power. It has bought us time. She rose, offering him a hand. He took it, her grip surprisingly strong, her skin cool to the touch. But they will not give up. They know something significant is here now. In the shared danger, the forced cooperation, and Lyra's unexpected act of healing, a new layer of understanding was forming between them. Kael's brashness was tempered by a grudging admiration for her strength and dedication. Lyra, in turn, was beginning to see beyond Kael's chaotic aura to the courage and resourcefulness beneath. The trust was still fragile, nascent, but it was there, a tiny seed planted in the fertile ground of shared adversity. Glim, now contentedly glowing a soft green, nudged both their hands before settling back on Lyra's shoulder. The immediate crisis had passed, but the larger threat loomed. They were trapped together, deep beneath a hostile world with a relentless enemy above. So, what's the plan now, Guardian? Kael asked, his voice more subdued. We can't stay hidden here forever. Lyra turned to the shimmering sphere above the pool, the heart of the mesa. The song of creation, it is more than just a healing frequency. It is a language, a power. And I believe, she said, her voice dropping, it is our only weapon against the Shai'naar. This was the moment Kael realized the true scope of what Lyra was protecting. It wasn't just a place, or even a species. It was a potential, a hope for the galaxy. And Lyra, the stoic guardian, was also its student, its conductor, its last best chance. He felt a profound shift within him. The investigative journalist was fading, replaced by something else, a protector, an ally. How does it work? Kael asked, his gaze fixed on the pulsating sphere. This song. Lyra moved closer to the pool, her reflection shimmering on its undisturbed surface. It's a complex resonance, woven from ambient cosmic energies, specific bioacoustic harmonies, and focused intent. My people have studied fragments of it for eons. This sanctum acts as an amplifier, a resonator. The full song, it can theoretically rewrite reality on a local scale, encouraging life, repelling decay. But it requires immense energy, precise control, and a deep understanding of the universe's creative pathways. And you're the one who can sing it. I am an apprentice, still learning its verses, Lyra corrected. The full song is a symphony requiring many voices, or one voice of immense power and connection. What I guard here is a critical movement, a key to unlocking further harmonies. She then looked at him, a new intensity in her silver eyes. The Shai'naar do not just consume joy. Their leaders, the Ascendants, seek to understand and pervert the fundamental forces of creation for their own ends. They would twist the song into a dirge of eternal apathy, a tool to make their harvesting more efficient. Kael shivered. Charming. He paused. You said your people have known of them for millennia. Why haven't they been stopped? A shadow crossed Lyra's face. The Tholian Concord once spanned many star systems. We valued creation, growth, understanding. The Shai'naar, they targeted our most vibrant worlds, our greatest artists, our deepest thinkers. We fought, but their methods are insidious. They eroded our will, sowed discord using their understanding of emotional manipulation. Our numbers dwindled. Many Tholians retreated into isolation, focusing on preserving what fragments of knowledge and life we had left. Like this sanctum. She gestured around the chamber. This place is one of the last repositories of that hope. Her honesty was disarming, a mirror to his own preferred mode of communication, though hers was tinged with a deep, ancestral sorrow. Kael felt a pang of empathy. So you're not just a guardian. You're a librarian of hope, tending a very dangerous garden. Lyra inclined her head. A void gardener, some would call us. We cultivate life not just on worlds, but in the spaces between, in the silent, forgotten corners of the cosmos. This song is the ultimate seed. She then looked directly at him. Your presence here, Kael Vance, is an anomaly. Your energy signature, while disruptive, is also potent. Glim is drawn to it. Even the sanctum's energies seem to react to you differently. Is that a good differently? Or you're going to blow us all up? Differently. A faint smile again. The universe rarely offers clear labels, human. But your rebellious spirit, your refusal to accept limitations, perhaps that is a quality the song has been missing. It was a subtle, almost startling admission. Over the next few days, measured by Kael's chronometer, as time flowed strangely in the timeless sanctum, a routine developed. Lyra spent long hours meditating before the heart, her hands moving in fluid, intricate gestures, sometimes humming low, complex melodies that resonated with the sphere's light. Kael, with his leg fully healed, explored the accessible parts of the sanctum, marveling at the ancient technology that seemed more like living art. He found archives filled with crystalline data shards, depicting star charts of unknown constellations and biological codices of impossible creatures. He also watched Lyra create. In moments of respite, she would take small, smooth stones from the cavern floor and, using a focused beam of light from a device on her wrist, etch them with incredibly detailed miniature carvings swirling galaxies, delicate alien flora, the faces of sky titans. It wasn't idle whittling, it was an act of intense concentration, her expression serene, almost worshipful. My people believe that the act of creation in any form aligns us with the fundamental pulse of the universe, she explained one cycle, holding up a stone etched with a perfect, tiny replica of Glim. It is a way to listen, to understand, to give back. The Shai'naar only take. They are a discordant note in the symphony. Kael, in turn, shared stories of his own travels, of corrupt officials he'd exposed, of forgotten colonies he'd helped, of the sheer, breathtaking beauty of nebulae seen from the cockpit of the Nomad. He spoke with a raw honesty that Lyra found both unsettling and refreshing. Her culture valued precision, carefully chosen words. Kael's words were like unpolished gems, sometimes rough, but always genuine. One cycle. As Lyra struggled to stabilize a particularly volatile harmonic in the heart's energies, Kael found himself humming a half-remembered space shanty, a tune he'd learned in a grimy bar on a remote asteroid. To his surprise, the chaotic energy fluctuations in the heart seemed to momentarily calm, aligning with the simple, earthy rhythm of his song. Lyra turned, her silver eyes wide. What was that? Kael flushed. Just an old pilot's tune. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. No. Lyra said slowly, a thoughtful expression on her face. Sing it again. Hesitantly, Kael sang the shanty. It was a simple, repetitive melody, full of longing and a rugged resilience. As he sang, Glim, perched on a nearby crystal, began to pulse in time with the music, its light a warm, steady gold. The sphere of the heart itself seemed to respond, its chaotic flickers smoothing into a more stable, brighter glow. When he finished, Lyra was silent for a long moment. Your song, it has a raw, grounding quality. The song of creation, as I have been taught it, is highly complex, celestial. But perhaps it also needs an anchor. An earthbound voice. She looked at him with a new understanding. Your unharnessed chaos may indeed have a purpose here. This incident became a turning point in their working relationship. Lyra began to incorporate Kael into her efforts with the heart, not as a musician, but as a grounding presence. Sometimes, his questions, born of a perspective so different from her own, would spark new insights for her. His rebellious spirit questioned assumptions she had held for centuries, forcing her to re-examine her approach to the song. The romantic tension, unspoken but palpable, began to build. It was in the shared glances across the glowing chamber, the accidental brush of hands as they worked on a damaged conduit, the comfortable silences that fell between them as Lyra created her small stone artworks and Kael tinkered with his data slate, trying to decipher Tholian schematics. He found himself captivated by the way the light played on the shifting patterns of her skin, the intensity of her focus, the unexpected softness that sometimes broke through her guarded exterior. Lyra, in turn, found Kael's unwavering honesty and resilience strangely compelling. He was so unlike the stoic, reserved males of her own kind. His emotions were open, easily read in his expressive face and the vibrant, ever-changing colors of his aura, which she was beginning to find not chaotic, but alive. She saw the courage beneath his bravado, the genuine kindness he tried to hide beneath his cynical exterior. One cycle, they were working to recalibrate one of the sanctum's energy flow regulators, which had been damaged by the initial Shai'naar scans. The space was cramped, forcing them into close proximity. Kael was explaining a particularly tricky bypass he'd once used on the Nomad. So you reroute the primary plasma flow through the tertiary manifold, but you have to damp the ionic feedback, or the whole thing goes boom. He said, his arm brushing hers as he reached for a tool. A jolt, like static electricity but far more pleasant, passed between them. Kael looked up, his explanation dying on his lips. Lyra was looking at him, her silver eyes luminous in the dim light, her lips slightly parted. The professional distance they had maintained seemed to vaporize. Ionic feedback, Lyra murmured, her voice a low thrum. A fitting metaphor for other energies as well. Kael's breath hitched. He could see the delicate pulse beneath the skin of her throat, Smell the faint, clean scent of ozone and something else, something uniquely her, that clung to her. Lyra. She leaned closer, her gaze searching his. Your aura, Kael, it is no longer just chaotic to me. It is compelling. Like a newly discovered star. Vibrant and unpredictable. And yours? Kael whispered, is like looking into the heart of a nebula. Beautiful, mysterious, and a little bit terrifying. She raised a hand, her long, slender fingers tracing the line of his jaw. Her touch was cool, yet it sent a shiver of heat through him. Do not be terrified, Kael Vance. And then she kissed him. It was a kiss that was both tentative and profound, a meeting of two vastly different beings, two disparate energies, finding an unexpected harmony. Her lips were soft, yet there was an underlying strength, a taste of ancient starlight and earthly storms. Kael responded instinctively, his arms going around her, pulling her closer, deepening the kiss. Glim, hovering nearby, pulsed with a dazzling array of joyful, incandescent colors, a silent, shimmering blessing. When they finally broke apart, breathless, the air in the small alcove seemed to crackle with a new energy. The thrum of the sanctum, the distant threat of the Shai'naar, all faded into the background. In that moment, there was only the two of them. Well, Kael said, his voice a little shaky, a wide, disarming grin spreading across his face. That was significantly more interesting than calibrating a flow regulator. Lyra's answering smile was radiant, chasing away the last of her shadows. Indeed. But their respite was short-lived. A shrill alarm suddenly echoed through the sanctum, far more urgent than before. Red lights pulsed along the crystalline walls. Breach! Lyra gasped, pulling away, her expression instantly hardening. They've found a weak point in the outer shielding. They're coming. The Joy Eaters, it seemed, were tired of waiting. The stakes surrounding the Song of Creation, and their own burgeoning connection, had just escalated to a critical, deadly point. The intimacy of their shared moment was shattered by the klaxon of imminent danger, but the bond forged in that kiss, and in the days of shared struggle, remained a new and powerful weapon in their arsenal. The Shai'naar attack was relentless and terrifyingly precise. Explosions rocked the outer chambers of the sanctum, the deep hum of their null energy weapons, sending waves of sickening apathy even through the stone. Lyra worked frantically at the heart's console, diverting power, reinforcing internal shields, her face a mask of concentration. Kael, armed with a salvaged Tholian energy projector that packed more punch than his sidearm, stood guard at the main entrance to the heart chamber, his earlier nervousness replaced by a grim resolve. They've bypassed the geothermal conduit you used, Lyra called out, her voice tight. They're using harmonic disruptors to shatter the crystalline strata. They'll be through the primary blast doors in minutes. Kael glanced back at her. The sphere of the heart pulsed erratically, its light dimming. Can the song do anything against them directly? Not in its current, incomplete state. It's too fragile. A direct confrontation with their null energy fields could shatter it, extinguish its potential forever. Lyra cried, a note of despair in her voice. We need to get it away from here. But how? Kael's mind raced. They were trapped. The Nomad was out of commission, likely swarming with Joy Eaters. Lyra's own vessel, she'd said, was hidden, shielded, but not designed for escape with the heart. What about your ship? The one you said was for protection. The Star Weaver, Lyra said, is a seed ship. Small, designed for deep space void gardening, not combat. It has sophisticated cloaking and shielding, but minimal offensive capability, and it's docked in a hidden launch bay, several chambers away, past the route they are taking. Void gardening, Kael muttered, an idea sparking. You said you cultivate life in the vacuum. Could the heart be transported that way? Protected by the Star Weaver's systems. Lyra's eyes widened. The heart is not designed to be moved. It is intrinsically linked to this Mesa's energies. Severing that connection could be better than letting these ghouls get their hands on it. Kael finished grimly. Is it possible? Lyra paused, her gaze darting between the failing readouts on her console and the pulsating heart. Theoretically, its core resonance could be contained within a Tholian stasis field, buffered by the Star Weaver's life support matrix. But the transfer would be incredibly delicate. And we'd have to get it to the ship. The blast doors at the far end of the chamber groaned, metal shrieking as it buckled inwards. Dark, slender figures began to squeeze through the gaps, Shai'naar shock troops, their featureless faces utterly chilling, their movements unnervingly silent. No time like the present for incredibly delicate. Kael said, leveling the energy projector. You work on prepping the heart. I'll buy us some time. He fired, a bolt of searing Tholian energy slamming into the foremost Shai'naar, throwing it back. Its personal shield flared and died, but another took its place. Lyra nodded, her expression set. She turned to the heart, her hands glowing with intricate energy patterns. She began a new chant, a complex series of harmonics that seemed to draw power directly from her own being. Glim darted around her, its light a frantic, pulsing shield. The fight at the doorway was brutal. Kael, fueled by adrenaline and a desperate need to protect Lyra and the song, fought with a ferocity he didn't know he possessed. His rebellious spirit translated into unpredictable tactics. Using the chamber's crystalline structures for cover, his disarming honesty now a defiant battle cry. But the Shai'naar were numerous, and their null energy weapons, even in weaker, sidearm forms, were taking a toll. Each near miss sent a wave of debilitating apathy through him, making his limbs heavy, his thoughts sluggish. He saw one of his shots hit a Shai'naar squarely. The alien didn't cry out, didn't even flinch, simply crumpled, its life force seemingly extinguished, leaving an empty shell. Kael, Lyra cried out. He risked a glance. She was surrounded by a shimmering cocoon of energy, the heart sphere slowly detaching from its cradle above the pool, shrinking, condensing into a smaller, intensely glowing orb that she carefully guided into a crystalline matrix that had materialized from her console. The transfer sequence is initiated, but it needs time to stabilize. More Shai'naar poured into the chamber. Kael was being pushed back. He took a hit from a null energy pulse to his shoulder. The pain was secondary to the sudden, crushing wave of despair, the feeling that nothing mattered, that all effort was futile. His rapid healing struggled against it. This was different, deeper. He stumbled, his vision blurring. No, he gritted out, fighting the insidious influence. He thought of Lyra, her fierce dedication, the impossible beauty of the song, the warmth of her kiss. That spark of rebellion, of defiance, flared again, pushing back the encroaching emptiness. He was disarmingly honest. Even with himself he was terrified, but he wouldn't give in. Suddenly, a new sound joined the cacophony of battle, a series of high-pitched, piercing shrieks from above. Cracks appeared in the cavern roof, and then, with a tremendous crash, sections of the ceiling collapsed. Through the dust and debris, Kael saw them sky titans. 3 of them, their massive forms wreathed in lightning, had smashed their way into the sanctum. They weren't attacking randomly, their fury was directed solely at the Shai'naar. Arcs of raw lightning lashed out, incinerating the invaders, their cries of rage echoing through the chamber. The Mesa fights back, Lyra whispered, awestruck as she completed the final sequence. The condensed heart settled into the matrix, pulsing with a steady, contained light. It's ready! The Sky Titans, while powerful, were also causing immense damage to the sanctum. The chamber was becoming unstable. We need to go! Now, Kael yelled, grabbing the matrix containing the heart from Lyra. It was surprisingly light, humming with contained power. The Star Weaver's launch bay is this way. Lyra pointed to a side passage, now partially blocked by fallen debris. Together, dodging falling rocks and the ongoing battle between Sky Titans and Shai'naar, they scrambled towards it. The Shai'naar, momentarily disorganized by the avian assault, were already regrouping, their attention shifting to the escaping pair and their precious cargo. They reached the hidden launch bay just as a hulking Shai'naar brute, larger than the others, its eyes burning with a cold intelligence, blocked their path. This one felt different, more powerful. Krellis, perhaps, or one of his chief lieutenants. The Song of the Ancients. The Shai'naar intoned, its voice a synthesized rasp that scraped Kael's nerves. It will be ours. Your little creatures cannot protect you forever, Tholian. It raised a heavy null energy cannon. Before it could fire, Lyra stepped forward, her stance radiating an unexpected authority. You understand nothing of creation, Shai'naar, she said, her voice clear and resonant, cutting through the chaos. You are but echoes of silence, a flaw in the grand design. Your pursuit of joy is a mockery, for you can never truly feel it, only consume its shadow. You are hollow. Her words, imbued with an undeniable conviction and a deep, resonant truth, seemed to strike the Shai'naar physically. The creature recoiled slightly, its weapon wavering. Its aura, which Lyra could see as a vortex of cold emptiness, flickered with something akin to confusion, doubt. This was her philosophical weapon, in action, words honed by generations of Tholian thought, capable of dismantling ideologies. Kael seized the momentary distraction. He lunged, not at the Shai'naar, but at a precarious stack of crystalline formations nearby, a relic of the sanctum's ancient construction. With a powerful kick, he sent them toppling. The massive crystals crashed down between them and the Shai'naar, creating a temporary barrier of shattered light and stone. "Come on!" Kael yelled, pulling Lyra towards the sleek, iridescent ship docked in the bay, the Starweaver. It was small, elegant, shaped like a cosmic seed pod. The ramp was already lowering. They scrambled aboard, Kael securing the heart matrix, Lyra racing to the controls. The Shai'naar brute blasted through the crystal debris, its face contorted in a silent snarl of fury. "Hold on!" Lyra cried, her fingers flying across the bioluminescent console. The Starweaver's engines hummed to life, a sound far quieter, more refined than the Nomad's rough growl. The ship lifted, maneuvering gracefully out of the crumbling launch bay, and into the larger, debris-filled caverns of the Mesa. "They'll be after us in seconds," Kael warned, watching the main view screen as Shai'naar drones began to converge on their escape path. "The Starweaver is not a fighter," Lyra said, her jaw tight, "but she is a mistress of evasion." The ship pulsed with a soft light, and then, to Kael's astonishment, seemed to shimmer and dissolve into the surrounding rock face, its energy signature vanishing from the Shai'naar sensors. They were cloaked, not just visually, but across multiple spectra. They navigated the labyrinthine tunnels of the Mesa, emerging finally into the violent, storm-racked sky of Aethel, leaving behind a scene of chaos, destruction, and the enraged cries of the Sky Titans still battling the Shai'naar invaders. Below them, the Thunderbird Mesa was a beacon of raw, untamed energy, a battleground. "We made it," Kael breathed, slumping into the co-pilot's seat, the adrenaline finally beginning to ebb. "We actually made it." Lyra kept her attention on the controls, navigating them through the turbulent atmosphere. "For now. They will realize we have escaped with the heart. They will hunt us across the stars if they must." She looked at him then, her silver eyes holding a mixture of exhaustion, gratitude, and a fierce determination. "But we have the song, and we have each other." Their connection, forged in the crucible of the sanctum, had deepened into an unbreakable bond. They had faced death, confronted their deepest fears, and chosen to fight not just for their own survival, but for a future illuminated by the song of creation. The romance born of unexpected circumstances and shared glances had been tempered in fire, solidified by sacrifice and unwavering trust. He had seen her command not just energy, but ideas, her words a weapon more potent than any blaster. She, in turn, had seen his rebellious spirit channeled into heroic action, his disarming honesty a bedrock of courage. As the Starweaver punched through Aethel's violent atmosphere and into the silent expanse of space, Kael looked at the humming matrix containing the heart of the Mesa, then at Lyra, her profile serene and focused against the star-dusted void. An unexpected union, indeed, now truly across the stars, fighting for love and a new life, not just for themselves, but for a galaxy threatened by an encroaching emptiness. Their journey had just begun. The Starweaver, true to Lyra's word, was a marvel of Tholian engineering. It moved through the void with a silent grace, its advanced cloaking systems rendering them virtually invisible to conventional scans. For days, they pushed the small ship to its limits, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and Aethel. The Shai'naar, Lyra knew, would be relentless. Their pursuit would be fueled by the desire for the heart and now, by a cold fury at being thwarted. Inside the compact, organically designed cabin, an atmosphere of wary camaraderie settled. Kael found himself endlessly fascinated by the Starweaver. Its walls seemed to breathe with soft light, shifting in response to Lyra's mood or the ship's status. Consoles were not merely screens and buttons, but flowing, tactile interfaces. This was Lyra's other form of creation. The ship itself was a work of art, a tool for fostering life. He finally understood her void gardener aspect. This vessel was equipped with delicate manipulators, atmospheric processors, and chambers designed to nurture the most fragile of extremophile organisms. "This ship," Kael said one cycle, running a hand along a wall that felt like polished, warm jade, "it's alive." Lyra smiled faintly, tending to the crystalline matrix holding the heart. It pulsed with a soft, steady light, though she constantly monitored its delicate energy balances. In a way, Tholian ships are grown, not built. They are symbiotic with their pilot. The Starweaver is an extension of my will, my purpose. She gently adjusted a minute energy flow to the heart. It is designed to nurture, to protect delicate potentials. The heart is the ultimate such potential. They spoke for long hours, sharing more of their pasts, their hopes, their fears. Kael learned of Thal's tragic history of a vibrant, artistic civilization brought to its knees by the Shai'naar's insidious psychological warfare and relentless consumption. He understood the depth of Lyra's burden, the weight of being one of the last active guardians of such a profound legacy. Lyra, in turn, learned about Kael's restless spirit, his disillusionment with the galaxy's pervasive corruption, and his unwavering, if sometimes reckless, pursuit of truth. She saw that his rebelliousness was not born of malice, but of a deep-seated desire for justice and authenticity. His disarming honesty, she realized, was a shield against a universe that often prized deception. Their romantic connection, ignited in the sanctum, continued to deepen. In the quiet solitude of space, with the threat of the Shai'naar a constant shadow, they found solace and strength in each other. There were quiet moments of shared intimacy, a lingering touch as they passed in the narrow corridor, a shared meal where their eyes met and held, a comfortable silence as they watched distant nebulae paint the view screen with impossible colors. One evening, Lyra was meticulously tending to a panel of what looked like glowing moss, a void lichen she was cultivating in a specialized terrarium. Kael watched her, fascinated by the delicate precision of her movements, the serene focus on her face. "What exactly is that?" he asked. "This is Tholian star moss," Lyra explained, her voice soft. "It can convert ambient radiation into breathable atmosphere and simple nutrients. A single patch, properly cultivated, could begin to terraform a small, barren asteroid." She looked up at him, a gentle light in her silver eyes. "It is a small act of creation, a whisper of defiance against the void." Kael moved closer, standing beside her. "You really believe you can change things, don't you, with these whispers?" "One whisper can become a song, Kael," she said, her gaze unwavering. "And a song can change the universe." She reached out, her fingers lightly touching his cheek. Her skin was cool, but her touch sent a familiar warmth through him. "You showed me that even a simple shanty can harmonize with the grandest symphony." He leaned into her touch, his own hand covering hers. "You're pretty good at the grand pronouncements yourself, you know that?" he said, his voice husky. She smiled. "It is a Tholian trait. We find beauty in the precise articulation of truth." "Well, here's a precisely articulated truth for you," Kael said, his gaze earnest. I'm falling for you, Lyra of Thol, harder than I fell down that conduit." Lyra's smile softened, her eyes luminous. "And I, Kael Vance of the restless stars, I find myself inexplicably bound to your chaotic, vibrant, and disarmingly honest heart." She leaned in, and their lips met in a kiss that was no longer tentative, but full of a deep, resonant emotion, a promise of shared futures under alien suns. Glim, who had been quietly observing from a nook in the wall, pulsed a brilliant, celebratory rainbow of colors. Their idyll, however, was not to last. The Star Weaver's long-range sensors suddenly chirped an alarm, a single, ominous signature, closing fast Shai'naar. But not just any Shai'naar vessel. This one was massive, its energy readings off the charts. "Krellis," Lyra breathed, her face paling. "It's his flagship, the Silent Maw. He must have tracked the heart's unique resonance, even through my cloaking." Krellis. The name itself seemed to cast a chill over the ship. This was the leader of the Joy Eaters, the architect of their galactic reign of apathy. "Can we outrun him?" Kael asked, already feeling a familiar dread creep in, as the Shai'naar ship appeared on the view screen, a monstrous, obsidian vessel shaped like a predatory jaw, bristling with null energy projectors. "Not in the Star Weaver," Lyra said grimly. "Not from him. He is relentless. He has dedicated centuries to hunting down the last vestiges of true joy and profound creation in the galaxy." Her hand instinctively went to the matrix containing the heart. "He will not stop until he has this." The Shai'naar flagship fired a warning shot, a beam of concentrated null energy that sizzled past their shields, making the Star Weaver shudder. The wave of apathy that followed was more intense than anything Kael had experienced before. Even Lyra swayed, her hand flying to her temple, the patterns on her skin dimming alarmingly. "They're null fields at this proximity. They are particularly potent against my kind," she gasped, her rapid healing visibly struggling against the psychic assault. This was her critical weakness laid bare, the overwhelming, unraveling nature of the Joy Eater's core energy. "Lyra," Kael was at her side instantly, supporting her. "What can I do?" "We need to get the heart away," she whispered, her voice faint. "Even if we don't make it." "Don't talk like that," Kael said fiercely. We're in this together, remember? Unharnessed chaos and the lady with the cosmic songbook. He looked at the monstrous Shai'naar ship, then at the terrified, yet resolute, face of the woman he loved. A desperate, rebellious plan began to form in his mind. There's one place Krellis might not expect us to go. One place chaotic enough, desperate enough, that even he might hesitate. Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes searching his. We're Kael. A generation ship, Kael said, his voice tight with urgency. The Odyssey. I picked up its distress signals a few weeks back, before I went to Aethel. It was on the verge of societal collapse, resource wars, mutiny, the works. It's drifting in the Sargasso Nebula, a graveyard of ships. If we can make it there, we might be able to lose Krellis in the debris fields, or even find allies among the desperate. Lyra considered this. The Odyssey. A vessel teeming with raw, unfiltered human emotion, fear, desperation, anger, but also, perhaps, hope. It would be a chaotic environment, dangerous for her own empathic senses, but Krellis, who preferred ordered consumption, might indeed be wary of such unpredictable energies. It is a desperate gamble, Kael, but perhaps our only one. Desperate gambles are my specialty, Kael said, trying for a confident grin he didn't quite feel. He took the Star Weaver's controls. Strap in, Lyra. We're going nebula diving. With Krellis's flagship hot on their tail, the Star Weaver plunged into the swirling, treacherous currents of the Sargasso Nebula. The vast, multi-hued gas clouds and dense asteroid fields provided temporary cover. But the silent maw was relentless, its powerful sensors cutting through the interference. Null-energy blasts rocked their small ship, each impact sending waves of despair that Lyra fought to withstand, her connection to Kael a vital anchor against the encroaching emptiness. The Odyssey's last known coordinates are deeper within the densest part of the nebula. Kael grunted, wrestling with the controls as an asteroid narrowly missed them. If we can just reach it. Finally, through a break in the swirling crimson gas, they saw it, the Odyssey. It was a colossal vessel, miles long, a relic of a bygone era of slower-than-light travel, now scarred and dark in places. It drifted aimlessly, a wounded giant in a cosmic graveyard. And it was not alone. Smaller, unfamiliar ships clung to its hull like parasites, Shai'naar vessels. No, Lyra whispered, her heart sinking. They're already here. Krellis, it seemed, had not only anticipated their move, but had already begun his work on the Odyssey. He wasn't just hunting the heart, he was harvesting a generation ship teetering on the brink, a veritable feast of despair and dying hope, a perfect addition to his twisted menagerie. The climax was not just approaching, they had flown directly into its jaws, aboard a generation ship that had become a hunting ground, its fate, and theirs, hanging precariously in the balance. The Star Weaver, under Lyra's desperate guidance, managed to evade the Shai'naar blockade by slipping through a breach in the Odyssey's damaged hull. The Tholian cloaking technology their only shield. They found themselves in a vast, unpressurized cargo bay, littered with debris and the ghosts of forgotten commerce. The air was thin, cold, and carried the metallic tang of fear. They've infiltrated the command structure, Lyra said, her senses analyzing the faint energy signatures leaking from the ship's core. There's a faction aboard that has allied with them, promised salvation, no doubt, in exchange for compliance. Her philosophical weapon was already dissecting the situation. The Joy Eaters didn't just conquer, they corrupted from within. So, not exactly a welcoming committee. Kael muttered, helping Lyra secure the heart matrix. The null-energy bombardment from Krellis's flagship had taken a severe toll on her. Her skin was paler, the vibrant patterns subdued, and she moved with a visible effort, though her eyes still held that fierce Tholian resolve. Her rapid healing was being actively suppressed by the ambient despair radiating from the Shai'naar presence. We need to find the core of the resistance, if there is one, Lyra stated. And we need to protect the heart. Krellis will tear the ship apart to find it. Their only lead was the fragmented distress call Kael had intercepted weeks ago, mentioning a Sector Gamma 7 and a Captain Eva Rostova, who was trying to hold the ship together against mutineers. Navigating the decaying corridors of the Odyssey was like walking through a dying beast. Emergency lights flickered, casting long, dancing shadows. Strange whispers echoed through the ventilation shafts, not just human voices, but the insidious, sibilant tones of Shai'naar. They encountered pockets of human survivors huddled in fear, their faces gaunt, their eyes hollowed out by the creeping apathy the Joy Eaters spread. Some were already too far gone, listless husks who barely registered their presence. The sight fueled Kael's anger and Lyra's quiet sorrow. This was the fate the Shai'naar offered a living death. Glim, usually a beacon of light, was now a dim, flickering ember, its empathetic nature overwhelmed by the pervasive despair. It clung to Lyra, offering what little comfort it could. Finally, after a perilous journey through darkened maintenance tunnels and across treacherous, debris-strewn biodomes that had once grown food for the ship's thousands, they reached what they hoped was Sector Gamma 7. It was barricaded, defended by a ragtag group of armed crew members and civilians, their faces grim but resolute. At their head was a woman with fiery red hair, her eyes blazing with defiance, Captain Eva Rostova. She regarded Kael and Lyra with suspicion, her weapon trained on them. "State your names and purpose," Rostova demanded, her voice hoarse but strong. "Another pair of Krellis's puppets, here to offer us blissful emptiness." Kael stepped forward, hands raised. "Kael Vance. This is Lyra. We're not with Krellis. We're running from him. We have something he wants very badly." He gestured to the matrix Lyra carried. "Something that might just give this rust bucket a fighting chance." His disarming honesty cut through the tension. Rostova's eyes narrowed, but she saw the desperation and the fight in their faces. She also saw Lyra, clearly alien, yet standing firm despite an obvious ailment. "What is that thing?" "It's called the Heart of the Mesa," Lyra said, her voice regaining some of its strength. "It contains a song of creation, a power that Krellis fears and covets.